Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Upshift podcast, the podcast that is all about Formula Racing. Today we are here to review the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku, but it's not only me. I am joined by a very, very, very special guest who you might know, Josh Revell. How are you, Josh, today?
Yeah, all very well and good, man. Looking forward to talking about this race, although don't bring up the topic of Armenia, because I'll go off on a bit of a tangent. But... No,
all right,
hell of a race, so looking forward to talking about it.
All right. Before we actually get into that, I got a few messages on. I didn't pronounce your name correctly before. So just before we get into it, how do you actually pronounce your name?
Revell. So
Revell.
How you would pronounce Revell, Rebel. Just replace the B with a V, if it makes sense.
All right, Revell. All right, so it's Josh Revell, everyone. So, all right. So, before the race even started, in qualifying, the entire weekend was just absolute chaos. All the drivers were absolutely struggling, and in qualifying, I believe 4 racers crashed out, including Giovinazzi, Ricciardo, I believe Tsunoda, and Carlos Sainz.
So
Why
is
it?
It was Stroll crashed.
Stroll's, yeah.
I think Ricciardo crashed in practice. Was it? I think it was.
I believe he crashed in Q2. Actually, I think
Could have been.
I
Either
believe.
way, 4 or 5 cars crashed.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? Like, just how technical this circuit is. How almost even the best drivers, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, were struggling.
I mean, there's a lot of areas where it just doesn't take any prisoners. You know, if you get it wrong and you commit to the corner, you're gonna smash your car up a little bit. And, you know, I think especially turn 15, I think everyone was reversing out of that. Everyone was having troubles with that. And, you know, I mean, yeah, it's one of those circuits really where there is no room for error, and I think it's great to have a calendar like that, to have a circuit like that on the calendar that isn't just Monaco. And also, you know, you're by the seaside. Wind also plays a factor, of course. I'm not quite sure on how that all works. I'm not a geologist or whatever the hell. I'm not some mad scientist. You watch my videos and you get the idea that I'm not one of those things. But yeah, it's just I was surprised though that out of all the corners that people crashed at this weekend, no one crashed at the castle section. Which was surprising.
I was. Yeah, that's the tightest one of the tightest corners in the entire calendar. And I'm pretty sure that everyone who has ever played the F1 game has at least crashed there twice.
Oh, no, not me at all, mate. Not me at all. I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, it was so chaotic, and then we start the race in the first few laps, and people are going off track. I believe in the first few laps I believe in turn 15, if I'm correct, they all cut the corner because there was like already debris on the track.
Yeah.
And it was just absolute chaos in the first few laps. And going through the race, there are some tire issues, obviously, with especially someone like Stroll, who had a massive puncture in, I believe,
It was on the last sort of stretch. Well, not the last stretch. It was on the beginning sort of the front straight.
Yeah. He had a puncture and then slammed into the wall. The tires were just not holding up. How do you think the drivers will try to cope? Because this is for sure not going to be the only race where this happens. Because like we saw last year in Silverstone, where both Mercedes' tires ended up exploding, and then Carlos Sainz's tire ended up exploding. So how do you think the drivers will try to cope with the softer the softest compounds, because I believe they used the softest compounds this week.
I mean, it's not only those ones. It was also, remember, Stroll's failure at Mugello last year, that high-speed one, which saw him literally vault the wall. Max Verstappen's one last year at Imola. No, it's not an uncommon thing, these tyre explosions. And I think going into this weekend, people were concerned that Pirelli went too soft on the compounds. And that ended up happening. The fact that the hards blew themselves to pieces after 30 laps in a 61 lap Grand Prix is pretty unacceptable, you know? Obviously there'll be ramifications to come of this, but, you know, Pirelli being Pirelli, I don't know if they're going to wholly accept responsibility, but, you know, two 200 mile an hour crashes smashing into the wall, that's pretty unacceptable, really. But, you know, I guess we're going to see. You know, we're going to Paul Ricard. There's 300 miles of runoff to deal with on a not so interesting track. So maybe circumstances will be different. What we don't want to see, though, is a tyre failure on like the Jeddah circuit at Saudi Arabia, or as we know it to be, the Grand Prix that nobody wants and nobody's asked for. No, that circuit's ultra fast. You know, you have a tyre failure at a fast section of a track where a lot of it's blind. I don't need to tell you what the second half of the story will be, but you know, hopefully Pirelli get on top of it. Really.
Yeah, because like you said, it was just unacceptable that so many people were struggling with the tires, and two drivers crashed on like 200 plus miles an hour on a straight. But we'll get into that second one in a little bit. Throughout the race, someone that was really shining was Sebastian Vettel. He seemed to definitely come alive in these past two races. But in the first, 4-5 rounds, he just never found it. Do you think that Seb is now back? Or do you think this is just a couple races where he gets in the rhythm and then he'll go back to those first couple rounds where he keeps getting P15 to P12 around that range?
Well, undeniably, you know, Seb today especially looked about as home in a Formula One car as I've seen in a long time. Now, the thing is that for me, the really great drivers can adapt to the conditions, and I personally felt that Seb didn't do that. It's just an opinion, I could be really wrong, but I honestly, especially with the season that Checo had, looked at the demotion from Racing Point and bringing in Seb, who was coming off a horrible season, and irrespective of whether the car was crap or not, his form was off terribly. So I was thinking, what is this, you know? And that, you know, it was only going to make sense if Aston could deliver him the car. And they've typically been a team that could deliver him that car, except now that they've got the funding from Big Daddy Lawrence Stroll. Maybe that could, you know, pay dividends, but, you know, first 4 rounds it was awful. But, you know, you got to give every one of these drivers going to new teams, you got to give them a year. You know, some are going to adapt quicker than others, and that's why I'm saying people like Ricardo, you got to give them until like sort of Spa time, and that's when they're going to get their mojo together. And it's just the same thing with Seb. So with him being there, you know, you may say, oh well, he's back to normal, but are Merc really struggling that badly legitimately? Are they going to struggle like that in every round? You know, like, it's difficult to say. But going off these last 2 races, this is the first time I've seen Seb like this in a while, and that's brilliant, not only for him but for the team as well. So probably too early to say, but going by what we've seen so far, you got to say Seb's back.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, it's definitely really good for Aston Martin because the first few rounds were so disappointing for them because let's be honest, they were the most hyped up team
Mm.
for coming into preseason because everyone was like, oh, they're like last year they were challenging for wins quite a few times and challenging for podiums,
With
and
a
then
suspect car.
yeah,
He said.
with a Control C Control V car, um, but they just never delivered the first few rounds, and then Lance, especially Seb, did not deliver, and was again like I said, P15 to P12 range, but then Lance Stroll definitely did pretty well, and he got into the lower points. But yeah, I think that it's definitely very good to see Aston Martin kind of be half back to their racing point form of last year. But yeah, like you said, we'll see. But now staying on to the new guys in the new teams. Someone that seems to struggle the past few rounds is Daniel Ricciardo. Ricardo did struggle in Monaco, where he got knocked out in Q2, I believe, in P12, and then never recovered, and he ended up staying in P12. This week was decent. He crashed out, I believe, in Q2 and got P12, again P12, I believe, but fought his way back up to P9. Now, we're seeing, like I said, Ricardo struggling more than we saw him, I feel like, at Renault. And then now he's up against Lando Norris, who's arguably one of the better younger drivers that we have right now. Do you think that Ricardo will stay in this form where he's not really there with Lando fighting up? Because Lando's consistently now, if he has a decent qualifying, he's consistently up there fighting for top five, maybe even podiums. Do you think he'll be up there, or do you think he'll stay where he is right now?
Oh, he'll get it. He'll get there. It's just gonna take. It's just gonna take time. Ricardo's of the caliber that he can get himself out of that rut. It's just that, you know, when he left Red Bull, I always thought that this was going to be a challenge for him. Not because he couldn't deliver, but because you think about what made him so spectacular in his Red Bull days, and it was because he was the last of the late breakers. But the Red Bull was a car where you could do that. It was the best on the brakes, and it was the best, chassis, was the best handling car on the grid. So you could get away with being like that. I'm not taking anything away from him. It was just that, he had the ability to be as brave as he could, be. I always thought that at Renault, I was like, okay, well, you're going into a team which has had very sus PUs. Now it's a French team, so the odds are that the turbo is going to blow itself to pieces every 4 races. And you're going into a car which is not improving quantity in the slow bends. So these late braking maneuvers, we're not going to see a lot of them, aren't we? We didn't. In his 2 years at Renault, we have good performances, but nothing like what we saw at Red Bull. So, you know, with that in mind, you have a look at McLaren, and we hear that there are issues about braking the car, inability to trail brake, and all that stuff. And it's like that goes against Ricciardo's typical driving style. So either the team needs to resolve that issue, or he needs to drive around that issue. But the team's already said that Danny's got to work around it. So, it's when you drive like you have in Formula One for nearly 10 years, it's a hard rut to get out of. But as I said, he's been doing this long enough to a point where he surely would be able to work it out for himself. So it's frustrating to see him where he is, but honestly, just sometimes you need to give drivers time. Like last year, no one was giving Ocon time. It was just like, well, you need to give him time. And sure enough, this year he's come back leaps and bounds, and he's doing awesome. So yeah, I think really with Danny Rick by Spa, we'll have a decent idea of where he is, and I'd say by then he'll be well sorted out.
Yeah. But I just remembered this. I believe comment that Andrea Seidel said that Ricardo is, like you said, very used to the Red Bull car, where you could like hold the brake through the entire corner, and that's how
Yeah,
he would.
that's trail braking. Yeah, and I heard
Yeah.
McLaren really doesn't like that.
Yeah. He's like in the McLaren you simply just can't do that, and he's like he's not used to it, and he's just struggling to uh redesign his driving style. But yeah, we'll see how he does. I think that he'll. I said this in my predictions episode, prediction video, that I think that like he'll get finally used to it around Spa, and I do think also Yuki Tsunoda will pick it up really pick it up around the Spa time, because then they have enough time to get used to their new car. But now going to the other side of the garage from Daniel, Lando Norris has been having a stellar season, definitely his best season to date already. He's got 2 podiums out of 6 races, I believe now. 2 podiums out of 6 races, and
I think so. Yeah.
yes, 6th round to I don't remember. I'm not good with numbers.
And Monaco, so yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, around that. Yeah, and he's had a stellar start to the season. How do you think that he'll perform throughout the rest of the year?
So I'd say I think it sort of depends upon how Ricardo sort of recovers his form, and also about how other teams around him do, because we've seen visible improvement from Ferrari and Aston, and McLaren have sort of fallen by the wayside. And it's strange because watching preseason testing, that McLaren was pivoting about as perfectly as a Formula One car could, and going by the behaviour of it, I thought they're going to be up there. But they've fallen away, and I think they did that last year. It's odd. They're a reverse Red Bull. They're great at the start of the year, and then they just sort of fall away. But like Norris himself, he's always had that talent, and he showed that in junior Formula. It was just when he got to Formula One, like he just appeared to lack a little bit of, I don't know what you call it, self-confidence, or just willingness, to, say this is my yard and we're going to do things my way. He seemed a bit passive in that regard, and I said, well, he's got a lot of it there, and he's shown that. He just needs a bit of mongrel in him, and I think this year he's shown it. He's basically saying, no, this is my yard, and I'm going to do what I want. And if you want to beat me, you're gonna have to go through me. And we've seen that he's put on some awesome performances. I'm just a little unsure he can maintain it, but I think so far he's dragging the best out of that McLaren, which is all you can really ask for.
Yeah, he's definitely come alive now. I think that a lot of people give him too much hate for his like Twitter stans or whatever they're called, like, because a lot of people love him, to the point where it's a bit weird. But like, he's such a talented driver, and like the way he's performing so far to beat the Mercedes, like Mercedes of Bottas and Perez and other amazing drivers, to get on the podium twice. And it's not even that easy. I wouldn't say an easy circuit. I don't know how to describe circuits. Like, it's not like an easy circuit, like I'll say like Paul Ricard or something like that. It's Monte Carlo, which is the most technical circuit on the entire calendar, and he somehow fought his way to a podium. So I definitely think he's a different driver than he has been the past few years. Even though last year was an absolutely amazing season, I definitely think that he will get gradually better throughout his years to come. And I think that he'll be definitely up there very soon, fighting for wins and podiums regularly. But yeah, sticking with the new guys and the new teams, Yuki Tsunoda, who I've discussed previously. in previous episodes that to me he's been kind of a disappointment. I'll be honest, because I've been comparing him to Pierre Gasly, the entire season, which I probably shouldn't have because Pierre's been in F1 for 4 years since 2017.
4 years, yeah, 4 years.
Yeah, since 2017, he has more experience. But Yuki Tsunoda's kind of struggled these past few races ever since his pretty good race in Bahrain when he got P9. How do you like? I've asked it for the other drivers. How do you think Yuki Tsunoda will get on for the rest of the year? Do you think that he'll again struggle like he did, or do you think he'll try be closer to Pierre throughout the season?
I'm not so much struggling with Yuki at the moment as I am struggling with a lot of the fans around him. It's like, I remember at the first Grand Prix, everyone was saying that he was the best rookie in years. It's like, it's one race. How are you determining this after one race? It's going to fall flat on its ass anytime soon. And over the next few races, he fell apart like a Chinese motorcycle, and we ended up with this thing where people were saying, you got to drop him. It's like, it's 4 races in, and you're asking people to drop you. No worse than that one-eyed, whatever you call him, Helmut Marko. Like, what honestly is the point of judging a rookie after 4 races? Like, come on, give him time. And of course, in Baku, he had a pretty good race. He got his head together. But I think a lot of people were saying, well, his attitude, he swears too much and all this stuff. It's like, that's not an issue. Like, honestly, I don't think his swearing's a problem. It's only if it affects his racing, and I don't think it is. It's just, he's just, as I've been saying before to other people, you need to give rookies time. You cannot expect them to just hit it out of the park, immediately. Not everyone here is Lewis Hamilton, on debut. So, and again with the caliber of the field and everything like that. So with Yuki, it's a bit concerning for a couple of races. I was like, pace deficit's a bit too much here. But apart from that, I'm not really judging any of these drivers until, again, we get to Spa, sort of as we start after the mid-season break, So I think so far he's had some teething issues, but nothing too horrible, I think it's just part and parcel of a debutant in Formula One, so... Yeah, if the Japanese Grand Prix isn't cancelled, which is pretty much certain, it'll be great to see him in front of his fans and with his experience around Suzuka. I think he raced 3 years in Formula 4 around Suzuka, so he knows it. By then he'll understand the car, he'll understand the circuit. It'll be great if that happened, but yeah, irrespective, I think really... This isn't just for Yuki, it's uniform for all the new drivers and all the driver changes. Give them that time to prove themselves, Yeah. Is all I really could say about that.
Yeah. Obviously, like I said before, I've been kind of disappointed, but I think I've been comparing him to Pierre. So much, but sticking with actually the Yuki Tsunoda and actually the guy who won today's race, Sergio Perez. Helmut Marko made the comments that he won't open up contract talks with Perez or Tsunoda. At the earliest will be the summer break, but he probably won't open up even then. And he's also made comments in the before this race where he said that he's been a bit disappointed with them. Do you think that Red Bull are just way too quick with the gun? And because I believe that Helmut Marko said that if they could, they would put Yuki Tsunoda in the senior team, the Red Bull racing team. I just think that Red Bull put way too much pressure on these drivers that are coming in And there's a reason that Albon failed, and so did Pierre when he was there. Is that they put too much pressure on these drivers, and it doesn't seem to be a great environment for these drivers that are trying to cope with moving so fast into a race winning team. Albon was given. He actually did pretty decently in the first few races that in the first 2019 season that he had, but then there's a reason he struggled in the 2020 season because people put too much pressure on him, and so did they did Pierre. So do you think that Red Bull? Do you think people should stay away from Red Bull, for if they're trying to get into F1 because they seem to be not patient with drivers giving them time? Or do you think that do you think that they should just stay away from them?
I think it depends upon your philosophy and about your perception. So I'm of the opinion that it's kind of a sink or swim situation if you're entering Formula One. The best drivers should be there. You get the best people to do the job. And it's a difficult one because Max Verstappen is, in my personal opinion, on pure pace, the best driver in the world. He's a freak of a driver on one lap pace. But even if he wasn't that, even if there was someone else better, he's still that driver, and that's the teammate that these new guys have got. So it is tricky for sure, but Red Bull drafting these drivers because they see sort of star potential in them, and normally they go for the ones that are the more flamboyant, the more exciting drivers, such as Dan Ticktum. Although they dropped him after 2 disappointing rounds in Japanese Super Formula. So yeah, they are completely sometimes, do knee-jerk reactions. And I mean, it's just like, I wouldn't at all say it's a bad program to be up against, because Red Bull do have a high turnout of drivers in their junior program getting into Formula One, at least relatively speaking. So it's a program that you would think would be good to get you into Formula One, about staying in there. I don't know. It really depends upon your attitude. It depends really upon how you view the whole thing. I mean, clearly, Albon and Gasly were not as slow on pure pace as what they seemed to be when they were in that Red Bull. And we're seeing with Gasly, he did amazing stuff in Toro Rosso. He had some weird moments with, lack of form on occasion, but apart from that, he was pretty damn good. He drowns in Red Bull, goes back to Toro Rosso now, AlphaTauri, and he does bits in it. With Albon, he was doing okay in Toro Rosso. He was there or thereabouts with Kvyat. Then he gets thrown into the Red Bull, and he does all right in the Red Bull. And yeah, but I mean, I don't know, with Albon, it was a similar thing watching him to the first year, I think, of Norris. It's just a lack of mongrel within him. It's a shame, but that's just, other drivers on the grid are not going to let up for you just because you're not wanting to get a little aggro out there. So,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, just for me, I've always sort of been about, if you want to stay in Formula One, you have to perform, and Albon and co didn't perform, but Checo's in there, and it took him a while to get there. But of course, it was a stellar race that he had recently, so
yeah,
maybe
and
it isn't totally down to Red Bull favouring one side of the garage. I don't know. It's a weird situation. Looking back on it, some things don't add up.
Yeah. I think that Perez, like, unfortunately, Albon, I think that he just, after the first few races, especially after the Austria, he never really fully, I feel like he never fully got over that. Unfortunately, I think his confidence just deteriorated throughout the entire year. But yeah, moving actually back to the race, we haven't even talked that much about the race that happened today. The first few laps, Charles Leclerc actually started on pole today. By the way, I'm sorry that I didn't do a qualifying episode. But Charles Leclerc started on pole today, and led the first few laps. But then ultimately started struggling, and Max Verstappen ended up taking the lead. No, Lewis Hamilton overtook him, and then Max ended up taking the lead away from Lewis. These recent races, Ferrari have been, especially Charles Leclerc. Carlos has been also there, but Charles has definitely been more active in the top three usually. This revival of Ferrari, do you think this will turn into a race win this year? Or do you think that they will ultimately settle for podiums throughout this entire year, and then next year they'll try to improve more with the new aero regulations and fight for championships and wins?
It depends upon the circumstance, really. Like, I mean, we know the car's good on these slow speed corners, so what circuit has a lot of those? What circuits have a lot of those? And it depends really upon what circuits we go to this year, because Singapore has been cancelled. They're going to cancel Aussie. Like that, the Australian Grand Prix is not happening. They just haven't got around to announcing it yet. Brazil's not looking great. Japan's almost certainly going to be cancelled. So what are we going to end up with, really? What circuits in that pack could Ferrari do well with? And then there's also, the luck of the draw scenario. Did anyone predict the podium this weekend? Really? Did anyone think it was going to happen? Sometimes in racing stuff happens. So maybe Ferrari could be there, but on a consistent basis, I don't know. Red Bull's clearly the fastest. Mercedes is there as well. But yeah, it's been a weird couple of rounds. The form for a lot of these teams have completely switched. So it was a big shock when Ferrari were as fast as they were in Monaco.
Yeah.
So I don't see how form can just switch that abruptly. For like the whole field. So I'm erring on the side of caution on this one. But hey, I wouldn't be opposed to a Charles win.
Yeah, because like a lot of people know, I've been rooting for Charles and Lando throughout this entire season. So since Albon left, and I'm sad. But but Ferrari's improvement, especially from last year, which was so disappointing. And even though their car looks like a weird Christmas tree, it does seem like Ferrari will be fighting for wins very, very, very soon. But yeah, going through the race again, Lance Stroll ended up having that massive crash, and what's it called? Throughout the race, it seemed like people were having a lot of tire trouble. Hamilton throughout the race was struggling with the tires and saying that they're just having no grip, and a lot of them couldn't find the pace. Like actually Charles Leclerc ended up going from pole to P6, struggling with his soft tires. And like we said before, Lance Stroll, who ended up struggling on the hard tires, and that ended up being a puncture. So these guys really have to try to stay, because Sergio Perez is definitely the best person to save tires, and he struggled with them. So it was a very, very technical race today, and that's what made it an absolutely amazing race. And in my opinion, I don't know about you, Josh, I think it was the best race of this entire season, to be honest. And it was just
claim. We're only 6 rounds into a 23 race season, man.
yeah. No, so sorry, so far
competition's
so
over.
far.
Close the entries. I'd like to thank everyone else who lost. This is the best, and it forever
This is
will be.
the best race ever I've ever seen.
Having said that, we've got Paul Ricard up next, so I think so far this bet's a little bit safe.
Yeah, no, I actually think Paul
Honestly,
Ricard's going to be the best
a
race.
race at Paul Ricard is more boring than having no race at all. I'm not looking forward to the next round.
Yeah, I think I haven't actually watched a Paul Ricard race. I'll be honest.
Well, good for you. You're not missing out on much.
Yeah, we'll see next week.
Honestly, it is such a depressing thing. It's like looking at a wall for 4 hours and not being stoned. Like that's too far a joke. Sorry.
It's fine. All right. But yeah, the who. I don't know if this is a weird segue, but out of all the drivers, to me, I think that like I said before, Sebastian Vettel, to me, was the driver of the day.
I don't think many people will argue against that, eh?
Yeah, was he your driver of the day, or who else impressed you throughout this race?
Mazepin finished ahead of Lewis Hamilton on track.
Oh yeah,
That's driver of the day. Nah, seriously, I think you can't look past Seb. Like, I mean, Checo did well, Max controlled the race, but Seb, I mean, you can't fault that effort at all, in the slightest. So, for me, it's a bit of a landslide victory for him. So, I'll give it to Seb on that one.
Yeah, I definitely think he did a really, really, really good race, and he definitely impressed, and he definitely deserved that podium after, again, the abysmal 2019 season that he had, which was, sorry, 2020, yeah, sorry, 2020. It was just, it's great to see him back, doing pretty well. And now, like, again, now moving forward, there were some pretty good moves there. I believe Lando Norris passed, I forgot his name. No, I forgot his name. Alonso. How did I forget Alonso?
Forget the name of a 2-time world champion.
Completely forgot. I kept wanting to say Fangio for some reason. Yeah.
I mean, when did Fangio start rising from the grave and start racing for Alpine? I mean, I'm impressed. Great to see an Argentine back on the grid, but I didn't know that they were going to that lengths. Fangio being overtaken by Lando Norris.
Oh my god. But yeah, he had a pretty decent move going into turn 1. Were there any moves that like kind of stood out to you throughout the entire race?
Oh god,
that's a very specific question.
Seb was very opportunistic at the exit of turn 1, passing Charles Leclerc. That was very, very well timed. He saw all of that coming from a mile away. Like, he knew, like, before heading into the corner, really, how it was going to end up. So the fact that he managed to pull that off was pretty astounding. I remember seeing a couple moves around the outside. Well, I don't know if it was F2 I was imagining, but a couple moves around the outside which were very, very well executed, very brave, and they got them done. I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but like it was definitely not short of some good overtaking, some good overtakes in this race for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, no, I do remember. There was a great pass from, what was it? Alonso, Charles Leclerc, and Kimi Raikkonen because they all passed Bottas on the outside of the same corner. I think
How?
Bottas lost 4 positions in 6 corners at the
Yeah,
restart.
how do you do that in a Mercedes? I don't know how he does it.
Something must be wrong with that.
Yeah,
car.
something
He's not that slow. Like it's something
Well.
is clearly off. I mean, he doesn't. I don't know what to think of him right now. Like, I know his potential. He's not a bad driver, but his form is unacceptable for that car.
Yeah, it's just it was so surprising to see like a Mercedes in P14 basically the whole race until the end. Just until the end. He finished in P12, by the way. And it was just
I mean,
unbelievable.
Italian Jesus passed him for 13th, and
Yeah, Kimi Räikkönen in an Alfa Romeo beat him. I don't know how. It's just.
I mean, and it's just, and also the thing you have to remember as well is that, yeah, Lewis finished in 15th, but he had that lockup and he was at the front of the pack the whole day.
Yeah.
Look, I understand that. I understand the car's not very good in traffic and so forth, but it still doesn't ring true to me. You know, you have Imola where Hamilton barged through the pack to get up to P2, you know? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if the car's not very good in traffic or not. Like, and especially with that Mercedes. Like, I understand not being able to pass a Red Bull. I understand possibly not passing a Ferrari or an AlphaTauri, but finishing behind Giovinazzi and Raikkonen?
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on here? Like, that doesn't ring true. It really, something's clearly off there. But if this is all down to him, Mercedes can't have him in that car any longer than this season. They need to bring in George Russell, and hopefully he doesn't drown. But you know, I guess we're going to see whether or not the Totinator is going to pull the trigger on that one.
Yeah, it's just, it's weird. It's just so weird to see a man who won the last race and dominated qualifying, got pole, won the race, and just be nowhere, and completely off the pace of his teammate and the top 3. It was just weird to see. But yeah, sticking with.
Like with sorry to interrupt there, but
No, it's fine.
It is kind of like with Seb last year. It's like, okay, maybe Charles is a better driver than Seb, but is he that far ahead? You know?
Yeah.
And with Albon and Gasly, it's like, yeah, Max is that awesome, but is he really that far ahead? Like, it's odd. It seems strange to me that you know, the pace deficits are what they are. You know, so and especially with Bottas having been in that team for, some would say, too long. You know, 2017 onwards, you know, he wasn't very good gravy, but he wasn't, you know, he wasn't way down the road. Now, especially at the start of, when was that time where he started injecting porridge into his veins and all that shit? Like, was it 2019 where he won the first couple of rounds?
Yeah. Where he won in Australia, they won in Baku. Yeah.
Was it 2018 or 2019? I think it was.
Yeah, it was 2019.
Really? I ain't gonna Google.
No, in 2018 he didn't win a race. I'm pretty sure it was 2019. I think.
You could be right.
People in the comment section fact check me, please.
I'm
Don't
going
wanna
to
look
Google
dumb.
now. I'm going to cheat on this. Yeah, 2019. 2019, you know, first 5 rounds he got 2 wins and his other 3 results were second places. He was well in contention for the championship then, and he sort of he had this vigor
Yeah.
then, like, I'm going to win this championship, Lewis, and there is nothing you could do about it. And then
And then,
basically he just fell apart. You know? But
yeah.
you know, how does it go from that to what we saw today? Like, I just don't know with Valtteri.
Yeah.
All I know is that Merc can't do this, so Toto really needs to pull his finger out and say, "No, Valtteri, I like what you're doing, but not at the moment. We need to bring in George Russell." That was the best sort of Totonator accent thing I could possibly do. No,
Sounded a bit like
because
Gunter Steiner to me, to be
I,
honest.
I could do Gunter Steiner, but not today. I don't want to do this. I've already got to have a go at Nikita for all that crap.
Oh, okay.
Almost crashing at the start finish line. I'm not fucking having this now. It's so much fun doing that accent, eh?
Oh my god. Actually, talking about Mazepin, he's bad. He's very, very bad. I think that he might be the one of the worst drivers I've ever watched. I'll be honest. I don't know. I don't know how you go over a minute behind your teammate, but he finds a way. He finds a way to beat garbage at driving. I I know I've been harsh in the past about him, but I feel like it might be deserved, because especially this race, how is he a minute? Last I checked one time, he was like a minute 2 seconds behind his teammate. And how are you that slow?
He's one of the
And,
worst debutants in Formula One. Like,
yeah.
um,
Why is
and
he in Formula One?
he is
Why?
he's probably the worst debutant since UGE day, and I
Yeah.
say that due to several things. Firstly, his on-track mannerisms indicate a lack of on-track respect, and I think that's something reflected by a few of the drivers, and how it's saying that he doesn't have any respect. And
Yeah.
by that, I mean, you look at his behaviour behind the wheel, and it's something that you just pick up on, you know, through years of watching and years of competing as well in any kind of racing, whether it's regional or whatever. You understand certain attitudes of certain drivers, and he looked like he didn't care about whether or not he was going to smack someone off the road or if he was going to spin off the road. I could be wrong. It's just that what I was seeing in his driving was kind of concerning, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
obviously
You.
there was that issue where he was reaching for the forbidden fruit, shall we say? But I thought, that's a separate freaking issue. Like, I'm just concerned about the racing. I was like, okay, well, in Formula 2 he did decently, and he got second overall in Formula 3, in GP3 rather. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's just see how he
Yeah.
does in Formula 1. And there's all the Mazepin jokes, which are a little old, to be honest with you, but he's still spinning off on occasion and hitting walls, and it's like,
Yeah.
Martin Brundle
It's
said it. When you're in the slowest car on the grid, the last thing you need to do is, spin it off the road. Just you need to get as much mileage as you can to better understand the car and how to improve it. So yeah, his quality pace has been getting better. In Baku he was only 0.1 of a second off, but his race pace is still appalling. Like, I mean, his race pace has actually been akin to that of Alessio Deleta's in Formula 2. And to say that you are like Alessio Deleta in any capacity is not something that you want to hear.
Yeah. That.
I mean that's like comparing capital cities of the world and you being Mogadishu. At what point do you say that? I mean, how far does your argument continue going, even after finishing a minute behind your teammate? That's a deficit that is not really something you would expect of a Formula One caliber driver. The problem is, he will continue to be in Formula One because Dmitry Mazepin effectively will own that team at the end of this year. And, there's that big rumor of Bad Santa being the title sponsor. So, Nikita will be in there for a while, so you better hope that he does improve. And will he?
Yeah.
Maybe. But,
It's a very questionable maybe.
I'll
For me.
I'll just say this. Yes, his qualifying pace is fine, I suppose. It's a very iffy fine, but that race pace is garbage and it needs to be solved.
Yeah.
I don't care if he went off the road once. That happens. That loses you 10 seconds maybe. Doesn't lose you a minute.
Yeah.
So,
and it takes you have to have a special talent to piss off more than half the entire grid in the first 6 races.
Off both the Canadians.
Yeah,
I thought the only thing that you could piss off. I thought the only thing you could piss off in Canada was their geese, but it turns out that you managed to piss off their racing drivers too. That is talent.
Yeah, like his blocking when he blocked Checo in Portimao. I don't know how you don't see him at all.
To be honest, I will come into bat for him. So there's 2 things to keep in mind here. First of all, you really can't see nothing out of those rear view mirrors because they're more aesthetic than anything else. Like they're there by regulation. But I mean, you talk to any F1 driver, the rear view visibility is very poor. So you're dependent upon your race engineer telling you, "Hey, look, X, Y, and Z's behind you." Now, before these 2 characters came in the last 2 or 3 years, who were the drivers that were continuously being absolutely roasted by other drivers for getting in the way? It was always the Haas drivers.
Haas boys, yeah.
It was just like Grosjean's getting in the way or K-Mag's not getting out of the way, and it seems to carry through. So maybe just the people on the Haas pit wall are just like, you're fending for yourselves. You use your psychedelic powers to determine if someone's behind you. We ain't gonna do nothing. I don't know, like, I think it's definitely more of a Haas issue, with Mazepin being told where someone is. So, yeah. I don't know if I can really blame him too much for him, but there have been some other moments, having said that, where his movements and behaviour have been funny, shall we say.
Have been very sketchy. Yeah. We'll see how he does in the next few rounds. It's probably just going to be him spinning over and over and over again. And
to be honest with you, he's not spinning that much. He's just not going very fast.
No, because I'm pretty sure he spun in every single session in Bahrain.
Every session in Bahrain, yeah, he's dulled it down a bit, but he did smack the wall at Baku, which I don't know how he didn't damage anything, but he definitely bent the rear wing up.
Oh, but did you see before he hit the wall in the race? Did you see those people on the balcony chanting Mazepin and then he hit the wall. Like, as he was passing, they were chanting Mazepin or Mazepin or something like that. And then as soon as they did that, he hit the wall. That was hilarious to me. That was amazing.
I've been poisoned by the Mazepins.
Mazepin knows that we're talking about
sorry,
him.
People, but this is the end of the Josh Revell channel. Courtesy of Ural Carly, who have poisoned my water bottle.
Live death on podcast. Live YouTuber death on podcast.
Azerbaijan Grand Prix review. Hashtag death of Josh Revell.
It's gonna be all hashtags. Alright, now going past, because we're about to reach about an hour now. Reaching the final stages of the race. Max Verstappen has been dominating this entire race. And all of a sudden, his tire explodes, and he slams into the wall, which is super unfortunate, because he was absolutely dominating that race, start to finish, and it seems that it was the exact same problem as I said, Stroll, where it was the same tire even, right? It was like the rear left, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's definitely a problem with Pirelli. But yeah, then we had the red flag that came out, and when the red flag hit, Nicholas Latifi got a penalty because I don't know how Williams messed that up.
That was strange. It was just like, stay out.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, stay out.
I was like, what?
Yeah, like I was thinking about that. I was like, then what do you say when you want to come into the pits? Like, what does come into the pits mean? Because if stay out means come into the pits, what? It was so confusing. Like, how do you mess that up? How do you mess up come into the pits?
Latifi didn't get the memo. Today is opposite day. When we tell you to stay in, when we tell you to stay up, I got myself confused. But hey, you're going to have the winner today.
We're all super high.
That reminded me of, was it Germany, where was it like stay out, and what it was like.
Oh yeah, for Lewis, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, pressure does get up a little bit, but I mean, I don't know why the pressure would be up for a guy that's in 13th place.
Yeah, it was weird. It was just on. How do you mess up going into the pits? That's such a simple call out. Literally just say, hey, at the end of this lap, it's a red flag, so just go into the pits. It was so stupid. But yeah, then we had the red flag. And then we had the red flag restart. And immediately, Lewis's tires are looking like something out of the WWE, where he rises out of the smoke, and his tires are obviously overheated, so he just goes straight on. And it was so disappointing, because I really, really want Lewis to win this championship, to be honest. I really want him, like no other championship I've ever rooted for someone so badly. I really want him to win 8. I'm fine with him winning 8 and then never winning a championship again. I'm perfectly fine with that, just as long as he wins 8. I just want him to win 8. That's all I want. I've already lost Albon. I don't want to lose more in F1.
My heart can't take losing another one.
I just want one. I want one.
I think it was the brakes that were cooked. It definitely looked like the brakes were bloody well almost on fire at that point. And I think someone said that he left it switched on. I can't remember.
Oh yeah,
Lewis he left it switched on, which basically sort of made the rear brakes turn them into cheese by the time they got down to turn 1.
Yeah, Lewis. Yeah, he said that he accidentally flipped a switch, and then it was all the brakes were apparently on the front. It was all the brake balance was on the front, and it ended up locking up, and it was super disappointing. And you could hear the pain in his voice, which is so sad to hear. That he's like, I have no one to blame but myself, which is it was sad to see. But then The last few laps.
It's kind of cruel for Lewis, but at the very least, it's kind of a decent thing in a way. What I mean by that is that Max was so cruelly robbed of that. But since they both walk away with no points, it's like, okay, let's pretend that race didn't happen. Let's continue battling it for the championship. I'm loving this battle so much for the championship.
Because we haven't had a battle in such a long time. Sure, we had kind of a mini battle in 2019 with when Bottas challenged a little bit, and also in 2018 a little bit with Sebastian Vettel. But the last time we really had a championship fight was 2016, around there, when Nico Rosberg was there. We haven't had a championship battle since.
Seb did try for a couple of years, but
but he never really fully.
He had a slight problem of spin.
Ferrari. Yeah, and spinning.
With the occasional essence of Italians, messing about with him in the team.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's a really exciting fight to watch. And also in the dying few laps of the race, we had an amazing fight for P3 with Charles Leclerc, what's his name? Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly, and actually Lando Norris got in there a little bit, and he started fighting in the last lap, and he almost got it, but Pierre ultimately got P3 with Sebastian Vettel grabbing P2, and Checo getting stupid frickin' Checo getting his getting his first win. He did have a great race, but again, like you said, the guy who had the best race was Sebastian Vettel. And the podium was amazing. Pierre definitely deserved his podium. All those guys definitely deserve. As much as I want to hate it, I can't not feel happy for Checo being absolutely booted out of Racing Point. That was being there for what? 6 years? 7 years, around there?
He joined
2014.
in 2014.
Yeah, 6 years. And to develop and save the team completely. And then for them to just say, all right, your services are no longer required. Bye-bye. And then just kick him out the door. It was cruel, and he definitely deserved this win. And he's struggled the first few rounds. I can't lie. I'm not gonna lie. I was really happy when he got out of Q2 in Bahrain. He has struggled, and he has done pretty well. So good job, Checo, Sergio Perez. But yeah, the podium ended up being those three drivers. But before we end off this episode, I wanted to quickly talk about Formula 2 real quick. Let's go down this rabbit hole. Who do you think is going to win the championship, and who's going to challenge? Who looks like the best prospect for the future of this season?
Champion, in my opinion, will be Robert Schwartzman. And the reason being is because, aside from him being pretty quick, I mean, he's not the fastest driver in the entire world. He's not the fastest driver on that grid on pure pace, but he just gets the job done. He's extremely consistent. It's what won him. It's what won him Toyota Racing Series. It's what it's won him a lot of things, really. So
we talked about a while ago, actually, when you came on. What's it called? I believe during no, not Bahrain. Sorry, Britain. We were talking about he's a very smart driver in how he picks how he drives. He's a very smart he has a very high racing IQ, I guess. I'm going off basketball IQ.
He's very mature for his age.
He's very mature, and I definitely agree. He will challenge for the title, but in my opinion, I think that the champion, I think it will be Guan Yu Zhou, to be honest.
Mm,
If he stays on the form he's in, and because he's not very consistent, but he's decently consistent, and I think he's definitely stepped up his consistency throughout this year.
yeah, I think Zhou,
But
if there was no super license thing, he would be in Formula One by now. He's definitely got the
yeah,
wherewithal. He's got the Alpine connections, but there's nothing really
for him.
there for him because they're
Yeah,
probably going to retain Ocon and Eyebrow Man. So there's no avenue for him really at the moment.
yeah. I I was
He's had a
actually
great season so far. You know, he's been
yeah.
consistent as all hell, but I mean, his pace, I've never felt him to be one of the fastest on the grid, and in terms of race results, he's odd. Like, he's got pace,
Yeah.
he just doesn't get results, and I don't know why. Like, it's a very
Yeah.
weird thing. He got results earlier in the start of this year, which is what you need to do. He's been
Yeah.
pretty good so far, but I don't know if he can sustain that. Um,
Mm. Yeah.
and I say that, you know, having just watched so many of these seasons and watched so many scenarios play out, um, I don't know what's going to happen to Zhou, but I don't see him necessarily in this title battle. The three drivers I think who are going to be battling for this title are obviously Bobby Schwartzy, Dan Ticktum, and Teo Porcher. All three of whom are extremely good drivers and all destined for Formula One. Liam Lawson, I love the guy. You know, if you're out there, Liam, goodness, yeah, you're a cool guy.
Thank you for watching. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's a fantastic talent, one of the more naturally gifted on that grid, but his luck's not up, and sometimes he's making mistakes. You know, a bit of two in there, and you can't afford that, obviously. Yuri Vips, in my opinion, is the Estonian Nico Hulkenberg. Yeah, lots of hype, very, very, popular guy, but don't
Yeah, it's a
seem
lot
to
of
see that many results from him, but he did dominate Baku, so that's my
yeah.
argument out the door.
Yeah, there's a lot of very good prospects. But talking about Dan Ticktum, I don't know why, but I don't like him. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. I don't know what I say. I just don't like him. I just feel like he's a bit too whiny, I guess.
Every driver's whiny. If you get
Yeah, I
on the
know.
com box of any young
No,
driver, like, I'm
but
not
like,
saying that it's acceptable, but it's like,
n-
I tell you what, you listen to a driver outside the cockpit, it's just you just like, oh, they seem calm, collected, and you hear over the radio, there are more swear words than there are words in their
yeah,
conversation. It gets extremely heated in any racing driver's com box. Like, very, very, and I'm not exaggerating, very rarely will you listen to someone over the radio and they're not swearing their head off. I think it's just they target Dan because they know that
yeah.
he'll react that way.
And the reason is like I know, like, obviously, like, you're right. All the drivers whine and complain. But like you'll crash and then they're like, oh my god, what is this guy doing? But then he'll like write a 10-paragraph essay on what happened, and it's just I don't know why. He's very annoying to me. I don't know why, but yeah. But
I mean,
yeah,
like,
I think
he's
he's a
definitely
very
got some issues with
yeah
the anger, and he needs to tone it, not entirely, because anger's a good thing if you can, you know,
control it.
holster it up and control it.
Yeah.
He's going a bit too overboard, though. He does need to calm that down. He does understand when he screws up, and he does take responsibility for it. Now, that incident in the feature race, that was a racing incident. Doesn't always have to be blame apportioned in an accident. Sometimes stuff happens in a race. And in that case, alongside Porsche for half the straight, still down the inside, still down the inside. Marcus Armstrong breaks early because he used one of his 2 brain cells, and 3 into 1 doesn't go, obviously, and it's just a pity.
Yeah, there was nowhere he could go.
There was nowhere where Teo or Dan could go. It was just an unfortunate thing. But the 10-second penalty. I mean, the stewards there, like an order of savage with no chill. I mean, I thought that was kind of harsh for something which really wasn't like. I mean, I'm not saying this because Dan Ticktum came back to me after the video and was a nice guy and all this stuff. I'm saying this because, to me, again, being part of the sport for a while, that didn't calibrate to see a penalty dished out for that. Like, and then Liam Lawson got the 10-second penalty, and I was seething. But then I saw the replay, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, fair enough. You can't drive someone against the wall. But no, honestly, Dan's got issues he needs to suss out. But as a whole, I don't think he's the super villain that people paint him out to be. He's just a flawed character, but somewhat misunderstood. I think really at the end of the day, I think we bestow too much expectation on a lot of these drivers. We think of what we complain about with them. Oh, he's too whiny and he's this and that. It's like, are we perfect? I don't think a lot of us are perfect. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know. Either way, I could see Dan once George Russell goes over to Merck next year. Dan's likely going to be ending up in that Williams, so we'll be stuck with him. The ultimate driver lined up at Williams. Dan Ticktum with King Latifi. Yeah, boy, get in there.
I'm checking real quick. Are they going to? Oh, they're not. They're not. F2's not going to be in Paul Ricard in a couple
No,
weeks.
it's such a pity. We have to wait another few rounds to see Toledo get lapped in a sprint race again.
Oh no.
He is appalling. He is appalling.
He is. How you miss the 107% mark in an F2 car is beyond me. That's just unreal. I don't know how you do that.
He got lapped in every single.
Yeah, he almost got lapped by Jack Aiken. Oh, or he did get lapped by Jack Aiken in Monaco, who hasn't been in the car for like a year.
That in every race that he's finished so far, he's been lapped.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable how slow he is.
To give you some context as well, with how bad the Monaco performance was, Mahavir was 5 seconds slower than the fastest person in his qualifying group. Toledo was 6.2 seconds slower. Digest that for a moment. I don't know, but hey, the video on the end of the year is gonna be fun to make.
Yeah, I'm gonna just rip into him. But yeah, I don't know why he's there. At some point, why. HWA.
Ching, ching, ching,
oh yeah,
ching, 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 money.
Yeah, money, but like at some point, HWA, you have to like have just a little bit of dignity, just push him out. Bring Aiken in, who's a decent driver. He's not the best driver in the world, but he's a decent driver, and he proved it today, yesterday, where he went from last to 14th, which is decent. He's a decent driver, and he'll get you points sometimes. So yeah, it's to see. He's definitely the Mazepin of F2, huh?
I mean, is he the Mazepin? Yeah, he is.
Yeah. He's the Mazepin of F2 for now. But yeah, that's kind of all the time we have for today. Just to close out, any predictions for Paul Ricard for F1?
It'll be really boring.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah. What can you say? Any predictions? Merc will win it. It's a power circuit.
What?
So,
Sorry?
Merc will win it because Paul Ricard is a power circuit, and those
Oh.
Mercs have been OP on the straights. I don't know if Ferrari's going to do too hot there because there's a lot of fast-paced corners.
Yeah.
But their engine's been pretty good so far too. So, yeah, I'd say Sir Lewis will take the win at Paul Ricard.
All right. Yeah, so those are Josh's predictions. My predictions are Mazepin will spin 4 times. That's all my.
Actually,
and
to be honest with you,
land
now
on
that,
podium.
now that you mentioned it, I mean, we've seen what their car's like in certain situations that they may have problems there. That Haas car. I mean, they've historically not done well there, and knowing the nature of some of those corners and how the Haas car really doesn't like some of those corners. Yeah,
it's going to be very interesting to say the least for them.
I mean, I don't know what God Mazepin usually prays to, but he may need to do a 7-day free trial with all of them for that weekend just to make sure he's not going to, die. But
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Yeah, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you to Josh Revell. Got it there right this time.
This time, mate.
Got it. Subscribe to him. Follow him on all social media. Everything that is all of his social media
subscribers,
links.
Mate. I obviously, I'm drowning out here, but I just
money.
do it for fun.
But yeah, all your stuff, all the stuff will be in the description below. So go check them out. If you haven't, what are you doing? Check them out. If you have, continue. So thank you all so much for watching, and or listening. I'm gonna go cry about Albon still not being in F1. So thank you guys so much.
You still missing him, mate?
Oh, little baby missing. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much. And I'll see you all for next week for a video. Peace out, everyone. Enjoy whatever you're doing. Bye bye.